Hello, my name is Olurotimi Osha. Today I want to explain why the CIA does not have arrest powers, and uh, we, this is demonstrated by the fact that in May 2026, the CIA director, John Ratcliffe, um, you know, contacted the FBI to execute a search warrant and arrest uh, senior CIA official uh, David J. Rush. Of course, I've done videos explaining how David J. Rush, who's currently in pre-trial detention in Virginia, had carted off $40 million in gold bars and $2 million in cash from the CIA. And of course, he had fabricated major portions of his resume and created a fake spy program. But the reason why the CIA does not have arrest powers is because of its charter, right? Its charter from the National Security Act of 1947, Section 104A, expressly strips the CIA director of any law enforcement subpoena or police powers, right? So, and the reason being that in 1947, President Harry Truman was concerned that the intelligence agency that he created would act like, you know, would become, a secret police like in Nazi Germany, like the Gestapo were in Nazi Germany or the KGB in authoritarian USSR. Um, of course, so that's a reason why the intelligence gathering and spycraft powers of the CIA, which is restricted to obtaining intelligence internationally, right? Conducting foreign intelligence, and it's precluded from uh, you know executing its spycraft amongst Americans, so it doesn't encroach on the civil liberties or constitutional rights and freedoms of Americans. Of course, these are protected in the Constitution with the amendments, the Bill of Rights. You can imagine um, if the intelligence, the spycraft of the CIA, which does its work in secret, right? It's clandestine work. If it's mixed with police powers, the ability to issue subpoenas and arrest and take American citizens to court, then it will be encroaching on freedoms like the Fourth Amendment, right? The Fourth Amendment protects Americans from unreasonable search and seizure, right? Unreasonable search and seizure. So I've done videos discussing the amendments, the Bill of Rights. So uh, apart from that, Harry Truman was very concerned about what was going on in what happened in Nazi Germany, and of course what was going on in uh, Stalin's USSR, where the spy agency had police powers, and they basically uh, permeated, suffused, infiltrated the entire their nations, their societies. Like in the USSR, virtually everybody was spying for the KGB, right? And in Nazi Germany, sorry, everyone was spying for the Gestapo, right? So um, it created an atmosphere of mass paranoia and hysteria, and of course, that's not reflective of a proper functioning democracy, where people are supposed to enjoy liberties. America, we're supposed to enjoy freedoms and liberties, even though we have a large, cost, incarcerated population, the largest in the world. That's another matter. I've done videos discussing that, the injustice of the travesty of America's carceral system. But with regard to the limiting of the CIA's powers and its ability to operate in the United States, the president, properly wanted to prevent, the CIA from becoming a secret police and then creating a police state in America, which is more, symptomatic of a totalitarian or authoritarian regime, right? And then it would defeat our democracy. Now, in the 60s and 70s, it was discovered that CIA leaders started surveilling Americans illegally, that they were monitoring America's mail illegally under the counterintelligence chief, James Jesus Angleton, and his name really was Jesus. Of course, he was fired when this was discovered that he had been illegally intercepting, reading the mail of Americans, right, without a warrant. So he was fired for this because it overreached and it overstepped, the mandate, the charter of the CIA, which is to operate, internationally in foreign nations. Now, espionage, I've done videos explaining that espionage is actually illegal because the CIA, espionage involves stealing state secrets, right? So they use different methods to steal the state. Every state, every nation wants to protect its information, its secret, its intelligence information. So when a rival or a contra nation is trying to obtain that intelligence, of course it uses extrajudicial, illegal methods, like theft of state secrets. And another reason also is the separation of powers, right? So I've mentioned how in an earlier video how America has at least 18 intelligence agencies. America is a nation that has established checks and balances, right? One branch of government is checking another branch, right? So that we don't have an absolute dictator, no one person, no one cabal can take over the government. So we have these different intelligence agencies, and there's no one agency or department that can be easily controlled by any one person and then create an absolutist state or an authoritarian state run by a dictator. So where you have 18 intelligence agencies, yes, it's as if they're competing with one another. They have their different respective purview and they don't infringe on one another. Now, I've mentioned that the FBI is, in an earlier video, that the FBI is an intelligence agency and it has police powers. However, the FBI's police powers are consistent with law, with the Constitution. So the FBI gathers evidence in order to to prosecute a case in court, right? So it goes through legal processes, right? It obtains a warrant. In order to surveil a prospect, it obtains a warrant from a neutral judge, and it provides evidence, in court. And the rights of the defendant the rights of the accused are all protected, right? Their constitutional rights, including their Sixth Amendment and whatnot. So the CIA's methods are not consistent with the Constitution, and that's why it operates overseas, as a spy agency. So, essentially to protect the civil liberties of Americans and to be consistent with our democracy, in which our civil liberties, our freedoms are sort of are sacrosanct and protected by constitutional rights. That's the reason why our premier spy agency does not have police powers, and it's expressly stated in its charter in the National Security Act of 1947 in Section 104A. Again, it strips the director of the CIA of police powers, law enforcement powers, subpoena powers, and whatnot. So I hope this explains a reason why the CIA does not have police powers and why the CIA director had to contact the FBI to arrest David Rush. It's con artist CIA senior executive. When it had, of course, the CIA had all the evidence. It wasn't asking the FBI to gather information. The CIA had that intelligence on it. The CIA is probably superior in gathering intelligence, although it uses extrajudicial means, extralegal means to obtain intelligence, right? I guess on its employees, because David Rush was an employee. Of course, he was terminated once the arrest warrant was issued for him. But on its employees, I guess it can spy on its employees and whatnot. By the way, working in national security, you do understand that you're under surveillance, right? You're constantly under random and repeated surveillance. If you're working in national security and you possess access to U.S. Secrets, right? So it's also for employees' protection, right? So because the CIA, the intelligence agencies, the national security outfits, whether it's the Department of Defense, they don't want their employees to be kidnapped by adversaries, right? Foreign adversaries, and taken off somewhere and tortured and given drugs that might cause them to break and reveal secrets under the influence of drugs or while intoxicated. So it's, in a way, it's also for the protection of the employees, right? In any event, I hope this was helpful. This explanation was helpful on why the CIA does not have police powers. My name is Olurotimi Osha, and I'll keep you posted. Thank you.